Hey, here it is. Once again, it's time to go inside EMS. You know what? It's the Chris and Kelly show. And here he is on the other side of the United States, Kelly Grayson, KG. What's going on in your
Oh
world?
man,
We
just living life. I'm busy prepping for my EMT class. It starts next Saturday, so um, scrambling to get all the stuff done before that starts.
very cool. How long is the class? How many weeks? Six, eight,
It's a 5 month class.
5 months?
Yep.
Like you're teaching them.
EMT.
So typically, does it take you 5 months?
It is, well, it's a hybrid class and flipped classroom. So you do Tuesday and Thursday nights via Zoom, and every other Saturday we meet for skills and well, I don't call it skills, I call it knowledge integration, where you
Oh,
put that
knowledge
stuff into
integration.
practice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a significantly different setup than EMT classes around here, and there's 3 to 4 times as many clinicals. And New York State requires you have 10 patient contacts to graduate a class. They'll get twice that their first clinical shifts because I'm sending them to nursing homes in addition to ER and ambulance ride time. So,
Yeah. So, Kelly, I think one of the things that we haven't had a leadership topic in a while, and one of the things I was talking to someone that I was coaching, and they were just talking about how there's so much negativity going on in in their place of business. And I said, well, what kind of negativity are you talking about? He goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, there's 7 types of negativity. So I went through this whole process to say, maybe people don't know the different types of negativity. So that's why I thought this
I
show
don't.
would be, well, we're going to learn it together. Well,
Yeah.
today we're going to learn the 7 types of negativity. And I want you to picture this, right? So we show up in the morning, 6:45. We're excited to have a good day. We go over to the coffee. The coffee's made. We pour it in our cup and we get ready. And over our shoulder, we hear 2 other of our peers talking about that we're short again. Why do we even bother come in? Supervisors don't listen unless there's a fire to put out. So even before we clock in, Kelly, there's a sour mood.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time we go out and we check the rig, someone's griping at dispatch. I mean, we've been there, right? So we know
Yeah.
what all these things are, right? So when we think about this, this is really kind of setting the challenge for our day.
Yeah.
And how many times have you seen negativity? How many times have you been the spur of negativity in your career?
Probably a few times more than a few times when I've been burnt out. I usually don't, I'm not I don't generate negativity. I just withdraw. But
Yeah.
that in and of itself might be a form of negativity.
Well, I mean, no, I mean, that could be also a defense mechanism, right?
Yeah.
So let's go ahead. There are 7 types of negativity. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Number one, complaining. So this is where we think that, we can bring ideas, and I think that you can, but when we complain all the time, when you define complaining, it's an expression of dissatisfaction. It's frustration about people. It's frustration about things. It's frustration about conditions, and often repeated and without focus on a solution. Usually we're just venting. This is where we're just continually venting,
Yeah.
right? And we have to be able now to find the way to change that energy. But complaining is a big one. And one of the things that's important here is that complaining becomes contagious, Kelly.
Yeah, it does. It does. Negative attitudes spur negative attitudes. It's a phenomenon that feeds on itself. The thing with complaining, we call it venting, and I've done it probably more than I should. My standard has always been, okay, I'm going to compl- I may complain, but I'm going to complain to the people at this ambulance service, and I'm not going to complain in public and badmouth my employer. But that doesn't make the work atmosphere
Right.
any better. You know, for me, it's habit, but there are several reasons that we complain. There's the emotional outlet, the venting. Uh, there's social bonding, which is we call it a hen party or a sewing circle. Everybody gets together and shares their complaints. Signaling, which I often miss, Chris. Quite frankly, it's a signal, it's a sign that somebody's asking for help or wants to be recognized. They may complain, and I think that the people that don't speak up often, when you start to hear them complain, that's something you need to pay attention to. And for me, it's habit or default. Some over time, complaining becomes the way we interpret things.
Yeah.
I'm certainly guilty of that last one.
Yeah. And one of the things that we have to be able to look at is that complaining, as you said, could be an outreach for someone.
Yeah.
Is it, does it eventually lead to something more for them to cope? So we have to be able to do that. So I think that that was good that you outlined some of those things to say
Yeah.
sometimes we don't look at it as a call of action. So
Yeah.
number two is criticizing. Now, you and I did a show about criticizing and criticism. So criticizing isn't always bad, right? But when we
Yeah.
do it in a way that helps people grow to add value, that's where criticism, I think, comes in. And I think we had that whole show on it. But sometimes people just want to criticize to be mean.
Yeah.
Sometimes people want to criticize just to find fault and have judgment and, all these other things that kind of go with that. And really, this now becomes an ego defense. It becomes a desire to feel superior. It's
Yeah.
low psychological safety in them, right? So they're trying to be defensive and they're trying to fight. They're trying to set them up almost to be bullies, right? So
Yeah.
Kelly, when we think about criticism, where's the bad side of this when it comes to negativity?
I think when criticism is poorly delivered, it becomes a weapon rather than feedback.
That's a good point.
As an EMS educator, I've learned long ago that, when you're going to criticize somebody or critique someone, start off with something that they did positive. I think in corporate speak these days, they call it a compliment sandwich. But always start off with something positive, and then gently deliver the critique. But when you just throw it out there, you never do this, or you never check your truck, or that sort of feedback, that's a weapon, and that's not something that we should be wielding against our coworkers. A way to reframe it, I don't know. How would we reframe that poorly delivered criticism?
Well, I think, as we've said, I mean, we have the whole show where we talked about, one of the things that I've noticed when you try to intubate or when you try to start an IV is this. If I can coach you a little bit, let me go ahead and give you this
Yeah.
suggestion and see if that works for you a little bit better. So I'm identifying the problem, but I'm saying, hey, I think you can, here's something that I think could work for you, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's really how we do that. But go ahead and give us number three.
Blaming, and blaming's ridiculous. I think that blaming itself, people are not introspective. They don't look at themselves. And that's in and of itself the definition of blaming, assigning fault to external agents, and shifting responsibility away from yourself. It's a telltale sign that people are trying to avoid accountability, and maintain their ego and their self-image, and kind of simplify a complex feeling. Kind of define boil it down to something that they are comfortable with.
This really comes from us really when we were kids too, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
we would get in trouble. And if you were in my house,
Tim did it.
exactly. Sometimes it'd be you have a brother and the brother always did it, right? And you
Yeah.
didn't want to get that. I grew up with an Italian woman who swore on her deathbed she never hit us. Well, somebody else was living in that house, boy, I'll tell you what, because there was some good corporal punishment going on in that house.
Yeah.
But now, as we start to get older and we're going to get in trouble because we made a mistake or we think we're going to get fired, and all of a sudden we think that we have to be able to point a finger and say, oh my gosh, that wasn't me. But one of the things that we need to start to think about is, we have to be able to accept responsibility. But now with blaming, this also goes into the fact of, well, this is the leader's fault, or this is the other shift's fault, or this is the dispatch's fault, or this is supply's fault, or whatever it is, right? So we have to be able to get out from that blaming to say, um, we have to be able to move forward and get on to the next step. So
Well,
number
yeah.
four.
Give
Oh,
me
go
some
ahead.
of this verbal judo you use when you hear blame creeping in. How do you pivot? How to give
Well,
us some lessons, oh master?
there's a couple of ways that in my book, Ultimate Leadership 10 Rules for Success, those are the rules I had to develop to be a good leader, right? Rule number three is there are no problems, just solutions, right? So stop blaming. And the other one is stop pointing fingers and let's fix the problem. right? So I don't care whose fault it was. We've got a problem. We need to address it. Let's fix it. Now, if people are blaming in the workforce for culture purposes, this is dispatch's fault, this is the field's fault,
It
then we have
usually
to
is
be
dispatcher's fault.
then we have to be able to get all those people together and really work out a better workflow. If I know that there's animosity between departments, or if I know that there's animosity between the supervisors, I am a poor leader if I don't sit those people down and find a solution to say, let's go ahead and fix this, right? So
Yeah.
so whatever it is, I don't need to belabor it. But number 4, Kelly, self-pity. Oh, woe is me.
Oh, that's
Woe is me, Kelly. Self-pity is number 4, but it is a form of negativity. It's internal negativity. It's a feeling of being victimized. It's a
yep.
feeling of being underappreciated. And then you start to feel hopeless. This is a lot has to do with self-ego. I'm sorry, with self-esteem. It has to do a lot about with self-confidence. But tell us a little bit about self-pity. You're a person that probably knows a lot about it. Give us the.
Yeah. Gee, thanks, Chris. This man, this is a telltale sign that my depression is getting the better of me.
Is it really
And
when this
and
happens?
just I don't think of it as self pity. That's the thing. It
Well, how do
requires
you define it?
somebody, an objective person, to point out that I'm doing the woe is me thing, and it every time it stings me pretty bad, and it starts a fight. I think partially because of the way that message is delivered, but there's no denying that I suffer from self pity when I'm deep in depression. Um,
Interesting. I didn't
as
know
far
that.
as Go ahead, what?
Yeah, I was looking at it from a different perspective, but this could really be a sign of depression that we're missing as well. I
It
didn't even
hugely
consider
is
that
for
when I
me.
was joking about it, but really, again, another call for help. No?
Yes, yes, it is. And as far as what is self pity, it's internal negativity. You bad talk and you bad mouth yourself. You feel victimized, underappreciated, hopeless. Hopeless is a big one for me when I'm depressed. And it has physical manifestations as well: fatigue, burnout, lack of support or recognition. When I'm depressed, I am constantly tired. Uh, and in the EMS context, that's nobody appreciates us. Always get the worst shift, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's in EMS speak. I don't like the people I work. I love the people I work on. I don't like the people I work with and I work for because we're just disposable supplies. That sort of thing. That's a self-pitying statement, and I'll admit it's one I've made more than a few times. But the
Hey, Kelly,
problem with that
let me ask you
is
this question. Can I cut you
yeah,
off? You said you said I don't call it self-pity. How do you define it?
it's real. It's valid. It's legitimate complaints, Nancy. That's the way I say it. It's not self pity. It's realism. Uh, and true. And actually, and I'm going to defend myself. Some of it is. Some of it is. And I'm never going to respond well to someone saying, "Oh, woe is me." And
Yeah, yeah,
I think she realizes that now. But to a certain extent, I am saying, "Woe is me."
yeah.
But the
Well, I think that's really, I mean, we kind of started off, I started with a little joke, but it got real, man. So I appreciate you
Yeah,
being open about that. I think that this is one of the real things about the show, right? So this just isn't about blowing smoke, or
yeah.
sometimes we feel these things, right? So cheers to you, man. But take us to number 5.
Guilt tripping. It's
You get,
manipulating others by arousing guilt to control behavior. And
yeah,
and I I'm not a subtle person. I am fairly direct. What I say is what I mean. And I boy, do I respond negatively to guilt tripping. I think that's a kind of a passive aggressive Richard kind of move. And um,
thank you for respecting the
manipulating
family
others just,
show.
yeah, that's why I said it's a Richard move. You can't directly ask what's wrong,
Yeah.
but it's a form of emotional weakness. This passive aggressive communication style. Um, and when people say, I stayed late again, must be nice to leave shift early. I guess I care about the job more than you guys. That kind of thing sets my teeth on edge. but I don't recognize that that is also might be a call for help, trying to be seen, and I just don't receive it that way. It's a bad way of expressing that problem. Um, cause a lot of resentment and distrust. Uh,
Yeah, interesting.
how if somebody guilt trips you, what do you do?
Oh man, that's a good one. I would think, one of the things that I've said for a long time is we have to stop listening to what our employees are saying. And instead, we have to start listening to what our employees are feeling.
Okay.
If we can understand their feelings, Kelly, I think if we can hear their feelings, I think we can understand their words.
Yeah.
So what I would say is, I hear what you're feeling, and I've been there myself. And what do we need to do? What do we need to do to fix this? Or, what do you think your approach should be here? There are things that are happening that we have to try to fix. Um, and I think that one of the things that would do is that would shift someone from the emotional leveraging of that guilt trip to
Hmm.
having more clarity with that. But again, where does a good leader come in all these seven areas of negativity? If we know that people are saying, well, you're leaving early and I'm staying late again, we got to work hard to get that other person off on time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, the shifting from leverage to clarity is a big one. I think for me with my behavior sometimes, you don't recognize what you're doing. And when people guilt trip, the fact that you can point that out, and let them see what they're doing, I think one of the biggest steps in understanding and changing that behavior is to see what you're doing, having someone point it out to you.
Yeah, I think
But
that's
let's talk about a big one in the EMS
I
workplace.
hate this one. I hate this one.
I
This
do
one's a
too.
pet
It's
peeve of
horrible,
mine.
and every single one of us do it. Gossiping, the water cooler talk, or the running your mouth in the truck with your partner about something you heard in the station. It's caustic, it's corrosive, uh, to talk about someone not present in negative terms. And I do it. Uh, and when it's pointed out to me, I feel guilty about doing it. I'm aware enough now, in my career, to see the cost of gossip and been a subject of it myself, that on the times that I engage in it, I immediately feel ashamed and try to shift it to say something positive about that person. But no doubt, it's a sign of insecurity, and you're trying to, alliance build and get people on your side against this. It's kindergarten
Well, I
behavior
got a different
at
take,
first.
I got a different take on it. So I do think it's big, and it's what we wanted to hear, right? And we talked
Yeah.
about we hate that other shift, right? So we're going to talk about them and talk all the things that we hear and all the rumors, and but then it does create a toxic work environment. But I don't think it really is more egotistical than it is the lack of communication. Okay. So one of the things that I've learned to do as a leader is if I, even to this day, if I hear something negative about a person, I ask that person, where did you hear that from? Because it's important that we get to the bottom of it. Or if an employee makes a comment that, well, the leadership just, well, who said that? Because we have to be able to trace that down to ensure that that culture doesn't grow. Now, if I say to you, Kelly Grayson, I need to know who said that, and you said, I don't remember, then I'm going to say, well, then it was you. And I need you to stop spreading those
Ooh.
rumors.
Ooh.
So
Good pivot.
you have to be able to get it to the core because I don't when we hire somebody, they're part of the same family, right? We need those people to get the work done. And if we're going to start telling stories about people, or if there's
Yeah.
rumors about people, we can just go and ask. And then one of the things that I will do is I will go back to the people that I've talked to, and I will say, hey, I talked to Kelly Grayson about that. He said that it's not true. He didn't say it. He told me that, hey, he is, he was in the hospital, but everything's okay. We could stop spreading the rumor that he's, getting ready to move on to the next world. And I would
Yeah.
go back to everybody to say, because now they've heard someone say to them, I found out the truth. And the truth is this. So anyway, I'm going to get on a soapbox about that because I could talk about this all day, but there's one
Brother,
more, Kelly.
I'm gonna vent here.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
gonna
go.
vent here before we move to the next one. Yeah, I've been a victim of that as well. I had something pretty horrific happen to me some years back. I ran over someone on the interstate, a human being. Uh, we think he was laying in the interstate and wanted to die, or something along those lines. But I ran over him and tore him to pieces. Uh,
Oh my God.
I I wasn't the only one that did so. Luckily enough, at Acadian Ambulance, I had good management staff. They recognized that I was not capable of working right then, and they let me have the day off, a couple of days off to get my head right. Our crisis counselor called me and we talked.
Wow.
Um, but the gossip from that eventually morphed to Kelly Grayson mowed down a pedestrian and got away with it.
Wow.
And you talk about horrible effects of gossip. Why would you say that or repeat that about a coworker? And do you really think that sort of thing is true? Kelly Grayson mowed down a pedestrian and got away with it.
Wow.
It just blows my mind. But those little things that you do chatting with your partner, and I've been guilty of it, but I'm telling you right now that gossiping serves no good purpose. And we have to be better people than that.
Yep. Agreed.
So,
All right, number seven. I didn't even know. Well, even before number seven, I had no idea, man. That must have been horrible for you
it
to
was
get
pretty
over.
bad.
But
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
anyway, I'm praying for you twice tonight now. All right, give
Yeah.
us number seven so we can get on with this.
Cynicism, and this is me, bud. I am a cynic. I think at a certain point in my life, I had seen enough to say, to have a kind of jaded opinion of things and a jaded outlook on life. And thank God I have Nancy McGee, who is an eternal optimist, and she's the donkey to my Shrek about the cynicism. You what it is, you it is persistent negative skepticism, sarcasm, apathy. You feel the worst and you think the worst of everything that happens in your life. There's no joy or wonder in what you do. You've seen it all before and you're not really happy seeing it a second time. Um, that sort of thing demonstrates that you are suffering from burnout and uh, disappointment, and you've tried and you haven't been able to overcome the cynicism in your life. uh, but I don't know what you do about it. Chris, tell me, if someone, how do you energize a cynic when they've been burned before and they've seen it all before and it didn't work that time, and that sort of thing? How do you turn that guy around?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you have to be able to know the guy too, right? And all of
That's
these
true.
things, yeah, all these things that you start to talk about, I need to be able to have developed a professional relationship, a professional, friendly relationship with you, so I know the best way that I could talk to you about, what's going on. And then we just
Yeah.
want to start small, ask for their input, acknowledge past failures yourself, make one visible change that they care about. So one of the things that you want to be able to do is you got to heal and you got to pull these people back into the organization, right? If they're still working there and you haven't fired them because of their attitude, then you have the opportunity to continue to work with them. And,
Yeah.
one of the seven pillars of accountability is learning. It's that you have to be able to help them get to where they want to be. So listen to what they have to say and
Yeah.
then see if there's something that you could do about it, right? So, you
Yeah.
know, Kelly, I mean, at the seven, I mean, this was a little bit of an emotional show, right? But the seven types
Yeah.
of negativity, and I appreciate you being very upfront because I think there were a lot of great, realistic examples that people could put their head on. But you're going to need a hug and a nap after this show. But go ahead and get us out of here, man. Let's go ahead and get ready for the next week's show.
Yeah. It's this negative behavior, and I feel kind of called out by pointing out some of these. And once again, we talked about emotional intelligence and healthy amount of introspection, and see how you perceive the world and how you communicate with others is a healthy step in fixing that behavior. And this is one of those. These seven types of negativity do us no good. all they do is drag us down personally, and they drag our workplace and our coworkers along with it. And when we see ourselves being negative, we need to do something about it. We need to take action and actively try to do different. And I'll share a little something before we close. It's my depression does this to me. It says you can't go do that because you don't have the money. You don't have the time to go hunting or hop on your jet ski. Uh, Nobody wants to go with you, and all this kind of stuff. And it tells you all these things that you can't do that are the sources of joy in your life. And it's easy to believe that voice because it's your voice. And the way you fix that is you stop listening to your voice and you go out, and if you have to, force yourself to do those things that you want to do that your depression tells you can't. Force yourself to be positive. And after a while, I found that you don't have to force yourself anymore. You've changed your attitude a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's what I think. You've heard what Chris thinks. How do you deal with the negativism in your career? How do you turn it around? We'd love to hear those thoughts at the show at ems1.com. And for myself and co-host Chris Cebollero, thanks for tuning in to Inside EMS. And I positively hope to see you guys next week.